first things first, I'm going to get this out of the way. This is the question you have been asked over and over again at your table. I heard 3 people ask you this while I was down there waiting to talk to you before. I want to get this out of the way first and foremost. We've heard a lot of rumblings, led by a quiet little wallflower named Stephen Amell, who has said, I am leading the charge to make sure that Greg Berlanti and his crew are able to bring Constantine, at least as a character, into the Arrow continuity for Series 4. Can you give us an update on where that might sit at this time? I'll just get out of
it's a really good question. It's an exciting thing. It kind of is on the table, but that's all I can say. It's something that I would be, well, I think it'd be great to see those 2 characters in the same space, basically, just jamming with each other, and what they would do that would be really interesting as well. So all I can say at this moment is I would be personally privileged and honored to be on that show. So let's see if that happens.
And I was incredibly happy to hear that you were paired with the character of Constantine. Talk a little bit about the beginning of your involvement when you were starting to read for the part and they were looking at having you cast as the character.
What's really interesting is when the script first came through, I read the script and I loved the script, but I had long hair and a big Viking beard. And they asked me to put myself on tape because I was doing a play in London, excuse me, and so I put myself on tape and everybody really loved the tape. Daniel Cerrone and David Goyle, they loved the tape, but they were like, I think David made a comment of saying something like, we really like this guy, but he looks like Sasquatch, which was quite funny. So I went through doing about 3 or 4 more tapes, and they kept on asking me, can I cut my hair and shave my beard? And I was like, I'm in the middle of doing a play, and it was a period piece as well, so I didn't really want to cut my hair. Well, I couldn't. So I kept on doing these tape after tape. I think I must have done about 10 tapes. And they really loved the tapes, but they just couldn't see through the fact that I was dark-haired and had a Viking beard. So eventually the play finished. They'd seen a bunch more people. Eventually the play finished, and I shaved my beard, I cut my hair, I flew to Los Angeles, walked in the room, and they were like, oh yeah, we see it now. Okay, and then went through the whole process of dyeing my hair. And I think there was more notes from the studio and the network on my hair and the color, and like just by slight tones than anything else to do with the show. It was just like, how's his hair look? How's his hair look? Is it blonde? Is it blonde enough? It was a really funny kind of process, having all these people just like looking at your hair, not looking in your eyes, and just going, I think it's a bit too blonde. Yeah, I think it's not blonde enough. And you're like, guys, So it was a really interesting process. And then, I fell in love with the character once I started reading the comic books, and it's just such a fantastic part to play. And what's great about doing something like this was you have all this amazing source material, so all your research is just there for you. So my research and my work then for my preparation was reading comic books, which all my friends were just like, you did a good job. And I was like, yeah, it's pretty cool. So when I did Assassin's Creed, my research was to play the game before. So I lived with a bunch of roommates in London. I'm sitting there playing video games, and they're like, Matt, come on, you can't sit around playing video games all night. I'm like, no, it's working. It's pretty cool things, and sometimes you get to do these fun things and fun bits of research.
You sweat your bollocks off on stage for weeks, months at a time, and look like Sasquatch, and then research. Yeah, it's a tough gig, man. It really
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. It's tough.
Yeah, it's digging a ditch every day. I'm good buddies with Charlie Halford, and the chemistry that you guys had on the show was just ridiculous. And the man, if you think Charlie Halford is tall, when you're standing next to him, I don't care how tall you are, you feel like a dwarf. It's astonishing.
Well, what most people don't know is I actually, every time I would do a scene with Charles, I'd have to have lifts in my shoes. Because otherwise I just look tiny next to him, And it's, even with the lifts, I mean, he's like up there, but they would put literally lifts this big, so it would make me a lot taller, because otherwise I'd just like come up to his waist or something. He's amazing. Well, once I got the part, we went through the process of casting all the other parts. and we did a bunch of chemistry readings with Harold and Charles, and just with both those guys actually. As soon as we were in the room together, it would just clicked. And it's great when you have that, you know, when you really find that chemistry in the room without having to do anything. It was just like a no-brainer, really. And Harold, you know, who played Manny, we were just like jamming it out, and it was just amazing. And I remember seeing him in Romeo and Juliet when I was a kid, and I was just like, we've got to get this guy. I was like, he's amazing, you know, and it was great. I mean, the whole cast, it was such an amazing chemistry and a bunch of people on set. It really was like a real tight-knit family, and I think that it's you don't really get that much. I think when you do, I think everybody says, oh, everybody's great, but I think that, you know, lots of times people maybe don't get on so well, or don't get on as well as they could. And when you really do have a bunch of people who really click and get on with each other, and it's just all about the work, and it's just a great chemistry and energy on set, and that was one of the most beautiful experiences for the whole piece.
There was a trailer showing at San Diego prior to the show, and that's where the real buzz for it started. I think it was like about a 3 or 4 minute piece from the pilot episode. And the one thing that I heard from the hardcore fan, who you can never, ever, ever make happy, is that he's not smoking enough. Early on in the show, did you guys know that was going to be such an issue with the network, where they were going to give such pushback because of the tobacco regulations that are on network television?
Well, it's funny because I was actually smoking a lot in the earlier episodes. But what I learned was that when you smoke, if you take it out of your mouth, then they can just cut around you. So, you know, I'd be smoking a lot, and then I'd look at the cut of that episode and go, oh, they've cut out all the smoking. So then towards the end of the season, you see me a lot more with a cigarette in my mouth. It's because I learned to just leave it in so they can't cut around it. So we were actually doing it from the beginning. And Daniel and David, the executive producers, we were always trying to push the envelope with everything, really. And it is tough in that situation, you know, with the regulations and everything, with network television. And lots of the source material is really, really dark. And I think we all really wanted it to be that dark, and be true to the source material. But at the same time, you know, you've got network television. You've got to contend with that. So in my head, I'm kind of like, you know, doing this really dark show, and then, you know, on the other hand, there's other components that are pushing against you. And I think the best thing you do is just keep on trying to do what you want, and trying to be true to the comic books. And that's kind of what we wanted to do. And I did feel towards the end of the season, about halfway through, we did start to, you know, kind of get the tone better, you know, and into the right place. And yeah, the smoking thing, I learned that halfway through, and I was just like, I'm just leaving it in my mouth. And the directors, because you have guest directors, the directors would come in and they'd say, look, I've been told, you know, you're not supposed to smoke that much. We're only allowed certain times. And I was like, it's fine, just leave it with me, it's cool, it's all on me, let's roll. and they didn't say anything, so it was good.
So the show debuts, and NBC, which already has it in a bad spot to begin with. It's a weird thing because TV is changing as far as the networks being able to quantify an audience. It used to be live, then it was live 3, then it's live plus 7, live 7 plus DVR, streaming, and you put all those figures together. And the fan base for Constantine is out there, because as soon as people were starting to hear rumblings that the show was in trouble, the Save Constantine hashtag pops up, and every single time I would look through my feed, it's NBC, make this work, Save Constantine. Were you still in production when this was actually starting to rumble around?
I think what happened is, normally when you do a network show, you have 22 episodes, and you get commissioned for 13 episodes, and then they will pick up the back 9 based on the numbers that you do. And I think the thing, as you said, we were 10 o'clock on a Friday night, and most of the demographic is out on Friday night at 10 o'clock. And I think we were having like 85% increase in numbers for, you know, the people watching it after. But as you said, television is changing so much that I think that if they hadn't taken notice of that, we would have been off the air a lot sooner. But they really knew that they had a show, they loved the show. The problem was just making the numbers work in that time slot at that time. Because lots of people won't take into consideration, lots of the advertisers don't take into consideration +7 numbers. It gets all complicated. Like, I knew nothing about this before the job, and then they're talking all this jargon to me, and I'm just like, can I just go play the character? That's the but you know, you do learn all the complications and all the things around it. But I think that the support on all the social media that we had from the fans, I don't think they'd ever seen anything like that before. You know, I think it was absolutely like unbelievable, and all the producers, we were just like, wow, it's like a movement that's happening, you know. And the show has such a cult following that NBC were just trying to make it work. They were trying to say, how can we make this work? And it just wasn't possible for them within their kind of framework or their model then. And then so there was the possibility of it being shipped out to other networks. There was talk of the CW and possibly some streaming services, but then that gets complicated because of the deals and the licensing and all these things. But for a moment there, we thought that we were going to go for the second season, and we were all really excited. And then at the last minute, it kind of went away because of certain complications, and we were all, you know, bitterly disappointed. You know, not only because we get to go to work every day and have an amazing time playing these amazing characters, but because there was such a huge push and a huge following from the fans. It was like nothing I've seen in my career anyway, and it was just like disappointing that everybody had put all their effort into, you know, the Save Constantine campaign, and the studio knew it and the network knew it. They just couldn't make it fit in the right way for what they needed, and it's just one of those things. But when eventually I was released from my contract, I said to them, there was lovely emails sent around to all the team, and I said to them, look, I would love to keep this open. If in a future date you guys want to pick it up again, then I would be well up for kind of reprising the role, and also think if he wants to pop up in any other DC
And that's the amazing thing too, because, and I said this earlier because we had Arthur Gargle, who's getting ready for Legends of Tomorrow. For all of the issues that DC has had with their movies, they get TV right. I mean, the great variety team, Daniel Cerrone with Constantine, and it's like the last 2 years of DC properties making it onto TV just seems to click so well with audiences. And it, from the inside of it, I mean, Daniel and his team's attention to detail on getting it right. Do you know how long they were working prior to just getting the show off the ground and getting it prepped for pre-production?
I'm not sure. I know that David Goyer, who is like, you know, the go-to guy in the comic book world, who's absolutely fantastic and amazing. I know that he wanted to do Constantine. He was like, I want to do Constantine, and he teamed up with Daniel. But I'm not sure how much time they had before to kind of prep. And I know that in network television as well, things happen very fast. You know, a pilot gets picked up, next minute, you know, you've got a whole team of writers in a room, and you're kind of thrust into it. Next minute you're shooting, you know. It's like from getting the role, I had 2 weeks before we started filming. So, and I'd only read like 3 of the comics, so I'm just like reading as much stuff as possible. And the guys gave me certain comic books to read, so I was jumping around the place. But they give me certain ones to read so that I could draw on some stuff for the pilot. And then the whole process of kind of the research started after that then. But we didn't even know if we were being picked up. And then when we got picked up, you know, the screw gets turned and it kind of goes crazy. And but you know, the little Easter eggs that the guys were dropping in there, you know, the way they really wanted to kind of stay true to the world of Constantine and Hellblazer and the DC universe, you know, that all of us at the core of it really did want to try and stay as true as possible to that, which was difficult at times, and I think there are other times when we pulled it off, you know. But it's always a constant struggle to kind of transpose a comic book to another medium.
There's episodes where there's very few effects. There's always an element of CG in the show. but some were incredibly effects-laden, some were closer, I mean, almost a detective show, for lack of a better term, easier on the budget. You save up your money from episode 4 to make sure you can pay for episode 6. As an actor, was it more challenging on episodes like that where you have to say, okay, here's the concept drawing, I know what it's going to look like eventually, and I've got to look at this green dot to be really scared of it or not?
Yeah, well, I actually think that doing all the motion capture for Assassin's Creed Black Flag, where you're in a Lycra suit and all these dots around you with 80 cameras and just a green room, that really kind of prepared me for all the kind of the green screen work that we did. But originally, in the pilot, it was very effects driven. It was very pacey. And I know one thing we wanted to do was try and kind of slow the show down a little bit. In the comics, he always stumbles across darkness, And I think that the main difference between the comics and our show was that we needed a forward motion. We needed the character to drive the piece forward. Whereas in the comics, it was very different. He'd always stumble across it. He'd always be trying to avoid it, and it would happen to him. So it was a slightly different concept in that way, and that was down to the scry map. That was like our device to where's the place this week, where do we go, until we burned it. And I loved burning it. It was great, and I can remember everybody just going like, we're burning the scry map, and I was like, yes! Because I didn't think we needed it, I didn't think we needed that device. But all the effects and stuff was really fun to work with. We had such a great visual effects team. The guy who actually did it was the guy who did the original Ghostbuster movies. And I was like, wow, man, it's slime. Yeah, and it's really good fun. I mean, it is difficult at first. Sometimes, you don't know what you're working with. You don't know what the demon's going to look like, and your reaction can be much bigger to what the demon's going to be like. So you're just kind of, talking with the visual effects people and the director and the producers, trying to gauge kind of trying to gauge kind of what the performance should be. But it's just real good fun.
Is there one thing that you'll be able to take from that experience into other roles you'll do down the road, where you look and say, if I hadn't done this on Constantine, I don't think I would be prepared for X?
Yeah, there's a lot of things actually. I think the main thing is the scheduling and the pacing in which we worked. I think one day I did 18 hours in front of the camera, and then had like 6 hours to go home, sleep, get changed, come back. Did another 18 hours. And I did that 3 days in a row, and then we started a new episode. And I counted my lines. For some reason, I counted my lines, and I had 90 lines. And I was like, guys, it's the first time I've turned up on any set in my career where I don't know what I'm saying. And so, but being able to work at that pace and having things thrown at you, and just being able to move with it, and that is a skill in itself. I think that's something that I'll be able to take away from the job and take it to other things.
When you're starting to get into the script, you said you read 2 or 3 issues on the back. Was there a piece of it where you said, if I have to do this bit, I don't even know how I'm going to wrap my mouth around the chunk of dialogue? Was there one piece where he's like, man, this take is going to be brutal?
Yeah, there was. I think it was the episode of Feast of Friends, which my good friend John Dumonigo was on, actually. He played Gary Lester. And there's a bit when I've got this thing on my hand, and I'm carving on this bottle to trap this demon in a bottle. And it was this huge piece of dialogue, and I had to walk from one place, pick something up, walk from another place, drop something down, and it was just like, and it was they wanted it to all be on one tape. And it was one of those days when I was like, I was a little bit, I didn't know my lines as well as I should have. I mean, there was no way I could have done better than I did, with the time we had. But you're just like, you're not 100% on top of the lines, and that was dialogue heavy, talking about tabat shlomos and all these. I think I spoke about 15 or 16 different languages on the show, and they used to have these amazing kind of dialect and language coaches come in and teach me through it. But it would literally be like, they talk to me and they'd be like, right, let's shoot. And I'd be like, Hebrew, Arabic, all Latin, like all in one day, you know, and I'm like, I can't speak these languages. But there was some mouthfuls in there, but we got through them in the end, and that was really good fun. But the moment was at the end of Feast of Friends, when I'm kind of putting the demon inside Gary Lester. There was a huge kind of Arabic spell, and that was the most difficult piece of language I've ever spoken in anything. It was like, well, 4 paragraphs of just, you know, I'd never spoken the language before, and, you know, you want to get it right. That's the thing. You don't want to just, you know, just because it's a spell, I don't want to be speaking mumbo jumbo. You want it to be real and authentic as much as you can. And we tried our best, and hopefully we pulled it off, but there were some big mouthfuls in there with all those spells and stuff.
How many Constantine cosplayers do we have in here? I know we got to stand up. Just stand up. You're walking around shows and you see that. It's got to be just ridiculously.
It's cool. It's cool, you know. It's amazing. It's a dream come true, isn't it? You know, we grow up watching movies and like, I love being an actor because you get to play all these different characters. You know, one minute I'm Sasquatch with a big beard, next minute I'm blonde and walking around with a trench coat, trying to smoke. You know, that's what's amazing, and it's the same for you guys as well. I'm sure. You know, we all have to kind of, you know, play different roles and watch movies and stuff. It's fantastic.
You've been released from your contract on that, waiting for Stephen Amell to call. Well, I just sit there waiting by the phone, like, little swoony little teenager.
It's funny. I'd love to see what they would do if it was to happen. Like in my head, I can just see like, you know, in the comic books, he calls all the costume, all the superheroes. You get the costumes, and he just takes the piss off. You know what I mean? And I just love to stand there and go, what's that? Green tights, really? And eventually, I think they'd get on, but to a certain extent. But it would just be really funny to kind of play that stuff also.
It's funny to see the dialogue go back and forth because it's one of those things where, as an actor, you don't care when they call, you just want to call. Do you have stuff that's lined up, or was the end of the show a point where the agent's like, I don't know if I can book him, and so forth?
It's always a funny thing because while we were waiting to see if the show got picked up, there was about 3 or 4 different jobs which I couldn't do because I was obviously under contract with Warner Brothers and waiting to see if we were getting picked up. And then, so they went away, and I'm actually I'm going to be doing a play on Broadway over the winter. So I start rehearsals, I think, on the 1st of September, and then we go through to the 10th of January, and I'll be doing that with Keira Knightley at the Roundabout Theatre on Broadway. So it's great to actually, you know, I love theatre, that's my background, and I love TV and film, but to do that and then go play Constantine, and then I did a British independent movie, which was totally different from Constantine, which is brilliant, and then to go back to theatre again. And that's kind of what I love about acting as well, is, you know, playing those different mediums, and also, you know, motion capture, you know, that was something that was completely new to me, and it's another skill and another medium, which is brilliant. Yeah.
Walking around with ping pong balls is something that anybody can do at this point.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, you get to know those guys really well, really quickly. You know, there's no egos in the room when you've got that lycra suit on. You're like, okay, let's work.
Raise the temperature a little bit, people, just a little bit. All right, so having the opportunity to have done all that, is there a medium that you prefer to work in? Whereas like all things being equal, I've got door A, I've got door B, I've got door C, I can take any of them, you know, pay isn't an option. Is there one that you would just do to enrich your soul because it's a better thing for you?
I would have to say that it's got to be theatre, because you're in charge of your performance in a way. You know, you work with the director and the other actors to come up with what you want to get across, and then you're the one that goes out. You're your own editor. You know, like I was saying earlier on, you can do something when you're in film and television, and then you watch it back and you're like, what about that bit? I thought that was really good, and it didn't make the cut, or what have you. Whereas with theatre, you're in control of it. You're in control of an audience, and it's a completely different medium in that way, and I love it. But then again, you do theatre for 3 months, 6 months. I did theatre for 3 years once, when I worked for the Royal Shakespeare Company for 3 years. And they asked me to do another 3 years with them, and I was like, no. I'm going to film and television because I'm all theatred out. You know? So I think that it's good to kind of change it up, but I think that theatre is the actor's medium, I would say.
Question over here.
I was just wondering, because in the show Constantine, there are a lot of times we have to give like religious, backgrounds on demons or monsters and stuff. So I was thinking, or like comic books and like besides the comic books and the language interpreters that came in, did you have any other like resources that you studied?
Yeah, you know what was funny is we actually had an exorcist who was liaison to the show. And I remember one time I called Daniel and I was like, look, I don't understand this. What is this spell? What is it doing? And he was like, let me just see if I can get the exorcist on the line. And apparently he was in Brazil doing an exorcism. And I'm like, that's so cool. But I was like, it's also a little bit frightening because these spells that I'm saying, they're real. Like, they were actual real spells that this guy was giving us, you know? So there's a little bit of you going, what am I saying? What am I conjuring? And what's going to happen to my soul in real life? But yeah, most of that stuff was real. We really tried to kind of, stick with the mythology of the comic books. And then also, we brought that guy on who was unbelievable. It was quite frightening at times. And what was funny is I used to always carry a comic book around with me, and I would, for the first couple of months of filming, I would read as much of the comic as I could before I went to sleep, and I had to stop doing it because, I'd be working like 12 to 18-hour days, and then going home and then reading a comic book, which is kind of a horror, and then I'd be like having all these bad nightmares, all these like spells and stuff which are real, and I was like, okay, I have to preserve some part of my sanity, yeah, that was fun.
When you say a real life exorcist, that's going to stick with me. But you can't do it where it's bollocks up because otherwise you're looking at it going, you're doing a spell that will actually conjure somebody at some point. So you can't.
No, I never met him. He was like in LA where the guys were in the writers' room. And,
sure.
And I never met him. And I wanted to meet him, but I also didn't want to meet him. It was one of those things where I was like, I'm not quite sure. Can you just make sure it's real?
Ish. There's Montecito on the other line. Yes, right here.
All right, speaking of exorcisms, one of my favorite episodes, especially just the skill involved in your acting in it, is when you were possessed. And I heard you just exhausted yourself in that scene when you were getting the demon exorcised from you. So I just wanted to hear a little bit more about that from you.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, my two favorite episodes are The Saint of Last Resort, part 1 and part 2. One, because it's serialized. I think that one thing we wanted to do in the show is make it serialized rather than Demon of the Week.
Hi, I read Hellblazer for 10 years, so thank you for doing it right.
Oh, well, do you know what? It's amazing to hear that. It really is, because I think that at the beginning, you're finding your feet. I think the writers are finding their feet, we're finding our feet, and that's all we wanted to do is try and be true to the comics. So thank you very much for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, and it got so good, so correct. So my question has to do with Zed's drawing in the beginnings. I noticed, I was like, I think they took some of those from the covers. Did she do any of that herself, or was that all artists that they had?
She didn't know. She didn't. They did take the covers and then like have artists paint them in. My dad's a really good artist, so I called my dad and I was like, right, do some pictures. And we'll put them in the shop. And he did. They were great. They did make them in. But I've actually got at home. I've got those canvases. They give them to me and all the little sketches. So I've got like a bunch of all these pictures of me. I give them to my parents. Like, can you store those for one day? But it's pretty cool, like all the helpers are, all the covers and everything, and it's your face. And so I kind of took those as well when the show finished,
Thank you.
Right here.
Hey, I was wondering if the show ever got any pushback because of the occult nature of it, or because it's so dark.
Welcome to Friday night at 10 o'clock on ABC.
I don't know. It's a funny one. It's a funny one. I think that it's a genre show, and it is in that horror, occult world. And I think that it's maybe not as mainstream for a network then as some of the other subject matters that they have on their schedule. So I think that was kind of a little bit of a vote of contention with them. But then you look at something like Grimm, which was on before, and that's kind of in the same genre in a way. It's a lot lighter than Constantine was, but in my opinion, I think the show should have been a lot darker. It wasn't dark enough, I think. in certain areas, you have to have the light and the shade. I can remember saying some of the stuff that worked best is when it was really dark, and then John can throw out these one-liners, you know, and then it works. Otherwise, the one-liners kind of become cheesy, and it kind of cheapens the whole thing. So I think it worked best when you really did have that juxtaposition of the light and the dark. But so to answer your question, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It's an interesting question.
I would have taken Dr. Faith Tubman home.
Sorry?
I said I would have taken Dr. Faith Tubman home if I would have.
You would have? Yeah, I know. Listen, if I could have put that in my bag, I would have. But they would have seen me taking that.
Well, you put everything else in your bag.
Yeah.
Speaking on that, you guys, of course, had Nice Eric Forham, and you guys introduced Jim Corrigan, Spectre. Were there any talks of maybe like bringing Justice League Dark down the line? Do you know?
There wasn't any talks that I know of Justice League Dark. I know that the plan for the back nine was we were going to introduce a lot more characters from the DC world. That was the plan. The first 13 was to kind of get you into the character and then start introducing other characters slowly, and then the back nine was just going to be DC Universe heavy, which would have been great. But yeah, there was no talk of Justice League Dark to me anyway. I know that there was rumors about the movie and stuff, but they never spoke to me about it.
Thank you.
And you have the last question, make it a good one. No pressure. No pressure.
Since your roles have a lot of like really religious stuff in them, would you say any of that has affected your everyday life, like your religious beliefs?
It's an interesting question. I think that, not really. I think that when you play the role, you get into it as much as possible, and you kind of, you know, you flip your head round to a way of looking at things. So when you're the character, you kind of look at it from his perspective. So what's so great about it is that there are so many different belief systems and within the magical world of Constantine, and he knows them all. So it's like, you know, I kind of wanted to keep this kind of, to be able to kind of see it as a blank canvas where Constantine goes, oh, well, there's that, and there's that. And he can kind of dip in between all of them, you know. But I wouldn't say that it's personally affected anything in my life. I mean, I don't know. Apparently, I talk in my sleep. Apparently, but so I don't know whether that's a result of doing all these spells or something. I think I was doing that before, but no, I wouldn't say that.
It is a gas to have you here. Again, I am part of the people who have been reading Hellblazer for a decade or more. It's fantastic to see somebody who actually gives a damn about the role, and it's not just, I'm not in tights, so I'm just going to mail it in. I sincerely hope that Greg Berlanti and their crew can make you a part of theirs, and I want to see you succeed because I dig your work, man. You are phenomenal.
Oh, thank you very much.
Means a whole lot. Scream, hoot, and holler for Matt.